stinky.
It's stinky. Welcome to Enterprise at 8. This is Live Long and Podcast Star Trek Enterprise Rewatch series. It's been over 20 years since tonight's episode Shuttlepod One first aired, but we're just getting started here at Enterprise at 8. I'm Jody Simpson, and my co-host tonight is none other than the man for whom I would share the last bottle of Kentucky bourbon, Adam Woodward.
Hey, thank you. I like this episode, guys.
Oh, good. All right. Also joining Adam and I, our awesome producer and the man who secretly loves season 2 of Star Trek Picard, even though his ratings do not reflect this, Dave Mater.
I'm giving out fair ratings. I think, like,
You're not.
I gave out like a 7.3 and an 8. Like, those are not.
I've been with you
ratings.
now like 2 years doing this thing, and I've seen what you rated other shows.
Yeah,
I'm just disappointed in you.
We know where the bar is, and you clearly said it.
I think I give out good ratings to other things I shouldn't. So, maybe even on this podcast. So I think it's temporary.
Maybe. Anyway, that's not a problem. Unfortunately, Kevin won't be joining us tonight. He's currently on assignment celebrating his wife's birthday. So happy
birthday, Ashley.
Pretty big assignment.
That is a big assignment, and hopefully he does it correctly.
Do you think he'll get a pineapple birthday cake?
I don't think so. I don't think pineapple is the best thing for Ashley, but I'm sure she has much better options. Anyway, tonight's episode is Shuttlepod One, as we discussed earlier. This is the 16th episode of the series. This is the episode where a routine survey of an asteroid field turns life-threatening when Trip and Reed get stranded aboard a shuttlepod with only a few hours to find their way back to the Enterprise that they think isn't existing anymore. So that's kind of the catch-22 to this thing. We already know Adam's thoughts. Apparently, Adam is all down with this. So, Stinky, tell us.
Stinky.
How do you feel? Just a quick overview.
I thought it was good. I think what I liked about this episode was everything about the two main characters that featured heavily in it, which is Reed and Trip. And I think that they do a really good job in this episode, both actors, to bring this together. I think that the conflict and like the struggle between them and the pessimism versus the optimism works really well. I think that it develops their relationship quite a bit. I think we learn more about who Malcolm is and who Trip is in this episode. The other stuff with Archer and DePaul and all that's all filler and kind of is whatever. It's kind of not really too important, but it's I think that this episode is a good foundation even for these two actors, because Dominic Keating and Connor Trenier, who play them respectively, they've started their own podcast now called Shuttlepod.
Really? I didn't know that.
Which is like a great name for a podcast. And I was like, what? We could have had that first.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Damn it. Yes.
We could have called this the Shuttle Podcast.
Let's be honest. If they came to us and said, "Hey, we would like to use that name," we would give it to them anyway.
If they'd asked us, of course, we would have.
Of course, we
wouldn't
even hesitate. I'm sure.
Right, but we could have been first in line. Yeah, I thought this was going to be a different episode tonight. I thought that this was going to be the one where they were dealing with the Romulans. That must be another episode. Isn't there an episode where Trip and Malcolm are again stuck in a shuttle pod and they're arguing about what to do with Romulans or something? Is that ringing any bells?
Can't say I remember it, but that does vaguely sound right. But again, it's been a long time since I've seen all these episodes, so who knows? I even forgot that Brett Spiner was in the series, and he was in the series very predominantly for quite a while. He's got
4
actually
episodes, right?
really, really cool arc, actually. But overall, yeah, I would agree with you as well, Dave. I think the dynamic between the two of them is great. It's a very yin to yang type situation. Where they each kind of complement each other, but also are complete opposites, which makes it interesting.
Okay, when I said there was, I didn't give my full rating, of course, but
of course,
couple things. I mean, for an episode that when you get a one set episode and two main characters, then you figure that budgets are low, like something's going on. So aren't we nearing the end of the first season right now?
We're like in the middle, right in the middle.
No, we're more towards the end of the season, but we are pretty much in the middle. Yeah,
16 out of 26.
26. Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay. Well,
we still got 10
my theory there, but it's definitely a low budget episode for sure. They're in one set. There was nothing going on. As far, as far as Connor Trenier or Tripp in this episode, I began to like him more than certainly last week, where I
felt the same. Yeah,
and I was disappointed in Malcolm again. Like,
really,
for being a military guy, and
he loses his shit pretty quick.
And there's no there's no emphasis on survival. I got for the first half an hour of that episode for him anyway. Tripp was all over it.
You're a regular Grim Reaper, Malcolm. Anyone ever tell you that?
Like, don't they put them in some training to see how they do in bad situations?
You would think, yeah. I don't know if it's that he's more emotional about it than he should be, because like when you look at Tripp versus Malcolm, it almost seems like he's emotional because of the loss, right? At least that's the kind of way I looked at it. It's not that he's in the situation that's bugging him. It's the fact that he's lost. And we kind of get a little bit of that in the episode where he's like, pretty much all the people that I kind of opened up to are now dead on an asteroid. Like, that's kind of what his theory was on it. Where Tripp was the other way around. Tripp's like, well, I got to survive. Let's go to Echo 3. We'll figure it out, blah, blah, blah. Because he's an engineer. That's kind of what the mentality is, right? Their mentality to fix things, right?
And you see him in the ship and the shuttle pod, and he's busy fixing this, going through that, scanning that. He's on the go.
Yeah, he's keeping busy. But I think that
is writing letters to his family and to his girlfriends.
Yeah, I think you're looking at two different stages of grief, though. Like you're looking at the one where one person's keeping busy, and they're keeping busy because they don't want to accept the fact that this has happened, and then you have the other person that's already accepted it, and they're now moving on to the I'm going to die thing. So I don't know. It's I get where you're coming from, and I felt the same way even when I was watching it, and then I started thinking to myself, is it Malcolm actually is he reacting because of the loss? Because we started to see him open up soon, right? Like, this is, a couple episodes previous to this, we started seeing him open up, like that birthday episode. He started opening up a little bit more to people and stuff like that. So now that he's open, does he feel vulnerable? And then obviously everybody dies, right? Or at least that's what his perception is. But anyway, we got a lot to talk about in this episode, I guess.
I did like him more as the episode progressed in this one.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But the first 10-15 minutes of him is just god awful.
I think they could have done a little bit more because with the mourning part of it, because like they believe that the whole crew of the ship is dead, and they do a little bit. They talk about how young Travis and Hoshi are, and that they died so young, and I think they could have done more about that. I think Tripp could have talked more about his relationship with Archer, because he feels like his best friend just died too, right? But it's
so
more
long,
about
Captain. So long.
But they also have to they also are in their own survival situation.
And, there's time for mourning, right? And the way that Tripp's looking at it is like, we'll do that later. Like, we gotta survive first. There's no point in mourning if you're going to be the ones that are going to end up being dead as well. Like, I guess that's his logic. Being an engineer-minded person, right?
It is quite the engineering problem too. I mean, they have
X
amount of, I liked when he said, okay, I'm in Chicago and I got to go to New York, or whatever the trains meet. When will they meet? That was kind of funny, that line. Yeah. But
Tripp's not good at that, even though he's an engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but engineers, there's people that can do massive, complex math problems, but they can't do logic problems, right? Like, it's completely over them.
But it is kind of a math problem, though, right? Like,
it is a math problem, but it's done in a different way. So I know a lot of people that are like that. So you can give them massive, complex numbers; they can work on it, no problem. But you give them something more simpler, at least in that type of scenario, and they're just like baffled for a couple minutes, right? Yeah. I'm sure he could figure it out in the long run, but the thing that sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was like, I had a thought. I was like, what I do like about these two, in the way that in this cast, like Tripp and Reed specifically, is the whole, like, you got the good old boy American guy, and they even set that up in the dialogue here at the beginning, versus like prim and proper Reed, Mr. British, whatever. And they've been kind of like hinting at that, all the way, just like when they're talking about education at the top.
British schools have a core curriculum. It serves to provide a well-rounded education.
Sometimes I think you North Americans read nothing but comic books.
But Superman was laced with metaphor.
Right. He's like, no European ever invented a warp drive.
I don't recall any Europeans figuring out how to build a warp engine. No Brits, no Italians, no Serbo-Croatian.
No Serbo-Croatians, no, nothing. Right. And
this is still the age of nationalism is still around at this point, and that's something else that's cool about going back to watch Enterprise. They're making their way away from, world structures and money and blah, blah, blah. But the nationalism is still there. I think that's kind of interesting.
Well, even Chekhov had it, right? Like Chekhov thought everything was made in Russia. So, or is it better?
Yeah, but there was never really anything harm there. It was just everything was made there. It was sort of a joke, running joke,
Scotch was made by a little old lady in Leningrad, or whatever Chekhov would go on about.
The one thing I never see anybody talk about is, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier there, Adam, when you're talking about how like this is more of a lower budget, or at least in theory a lower
Bottle
budget
episode.
episode because what it is. The shuttle itself, the interior of that shuttle is fantastic. Like compared to every other shuttle we've ever seen on screen, that one is awesome. Like there's so much going on in that shuttle. Even though it is a pretty cramped thing, I love the look of it. Like the internals. I don't know if you have a internal, Dave, but
I can see if I can find
but
one
like
shot, yeah.
just everything is so active, whereas all the other ones that we've had previously, like TNG and well, obviously the original is a little hard to compare, but even if you look at like some of the shuttles in like DS9 and all those guys, like we don't get that atmosphere that we do in this one. Like the atmosphere in this one's fantastic. I think
the atmosphere is cool, but
it's very utilitarian.
I disagree there. I think that the boxy ones are more utilitarian because you get more room out of a box, and this you've got the, if you show an outside picture of that exterior picture, you'll see
it's essentially a plane.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's essentially a plane. It looks more like a modern. It looks more like the 80s and 70s shuttles.
Right
from the outside,
but versus where the boxy shuttles have more room simply because they're a box.
Yeah, the problem that I have with the boxy shuttles is it doesn't look like they're actually used. Like to me, it always looks like they really are obviously a set, whereas this actually looks like it could be a shuttle. You know what I mean? Like it's, and I know like I'm not trying to argue it one way or the other because really it's down to the person and their perception. But the shuttle themselves, when you look at that shuttle, it to me it looks like a really good used environment. Like I could believe that this is actually a real shuttle that they just literally are using, which obviously we know is not true. But it's to me that gives me a little bit more authenticity with it, even though realistically, obviously, there's a lot that shouldn't be authentic in Star Trek. But I like the set. I think the set's great. This is the first time we get a really, really good shot of the front, looking through the front of the shuttle. We don't see a lot of that on this show. We only see the back usually, because obviously we're focusing on the characters instead of, somebody sitting there and freezing to death. But I even like the frost in the windows later on, stuff like that. Like I just thought it was cool to look at. So when it comes to budget, to me, it didn't scream budget problem.
I couldn't like I'm searching for like a wide shot or an exterior shot. There's very few exterior shots.
There's not a lot. Right at the beginning, there's an
they're
external
so quick,
shuttle
and so
shot.
like I'm just been trying to find one.
Well, because the story's internal, right? Like there's not really much external to it.
This is what they
it's
call
right during the teaser.
A bottle episode, right? And a bottle episode is like only using existing sets. It's meant to be on the cheap, but they're some of my favorite episodes because
some of them can be great,
but the writing has to be good, and this one did that.
Yeah, I think the writing was pretty good here.
Because you've got two guys carrying the episode. I mean, simple as that.
And some of the like camaraderie later on when they're getting loaded on the whiskey and stuff like that, like it's like when they're talking about like T'Pol's ass and stuff like that. Like I don't know if that would fly now, but
she's got an awfully nice bum.
Yeah, she's got an awfully nice bum, and he's just giggling about it like a little schoolgirl, eh? And and trips it.
Or is it just the galaxy giggling at us again?
Is the galaxy giggling at us again?
They can giggle all at once, but the galaxy's not getting any of our bourbon.
It's not getting any of our bourbon. I love that. It's so good. But
it's a good scene. Even them talking about to Paul, like, come on, like, wouldn't two women maybe do this about a male crew member? Like,
for sure, this is
they would.
happening all the time, right? It's just we don't normally see this in Star Trek. This isn't something.
This is
that
the
we see a
real.
lot of.
This is the real. Like, it's real. It's a real conversation.
It's a more real conversation, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what that's another thing that I like about the writing of this episode is the fact that I really believe that these two guys would talk about this stuff while they're there. Right, like
well, they're dying. I mean, like at this point,
they got nothing else to talk about. They're just gonna, I'm drunk, I'm loaded on bourbon, and I'm talking about Paul's ass. Like that's
at this point they got like less than
don't
a day
tell me
left.
you haven't looked.
I'm surprised they didn't bring more, more discussion into it.
Well, and Trip, funny enough, ends up with her, right? So it's like, right now he's doing the like, she's a Vulcan, right? Like, later on he'll be like, yeah, she's a Vulcan. Right. So it's, but overall, I just I liked how they even, portrayed them. I think the makeup was well done as well. Like, especially in the scenes where they're getting colder, like there's obvious like blotches on their face and stuff like that, because that's how our body, reacts to that stuff. So it's really cool to look at. I thought.
I got a couple questions.
Visually it looks great. You always have a couple questions. We should actually have a segment.
Dave's questions.
Dave's questions.
Dave's questions. Dave's curiosities.
Yeah,
okay,
Dave's
like I agree that
curiosities,
this shuttle set is good, and like I think
it.
like it also like we see Trip sleeping at one point, so that that there's bunks that come down here. Where's the toilet in this?
Wait a second, I wondered that myself, but. Even though the sleeping scene, he's not comfortable. This is not meant to be
this isn't a long-term hauler or anything. Like he's sleeping over two seats.
Yeah.
You can
but
actually
they knew
see
they were going to be
in
in this thing for 3 days. Like that was the original mission, 3 days, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a way to evacuate. It could be something as simple as like good old military style, right? Where you got a pipe and that's it, right? Like it could be that simple. Who knows? I don't know. Bathrooms have always been something. This show at least acknowledges that there is a bathroom.
Yes.
Whereas most of the other Star Treks have never.
Well, presumably, like one just pops out of a hidden compartment or something like that.
Yeah. The only other time I can think of, really off the top of my head, is the episode where everybody's de-evolving on Next Gen, and they find Troy in the bathtub. Right, so it's like that's
right. That's a tub,
bathroom.
though. Like there was the one scene in Voyager where Neelix mentioned that there was only a few functioning lavatories, and the Bolians were causing a problem. The Bolians apparently in the bathroom is not fun.
So sound like a good time. Yeah.
But these two expected to be only those two in this thing for 3 days, right? That was the original mission, and so I was like, so what? Like, did they take a dump in front of each other? Or what's going on in this bathroom situation?
The only problem I have with all this is that we've seen in previous Star Treks, and again, I don't know if they've done it in this or not, but usually there's some sort of way to communicate with the people that are returning back to the spot for a rendezvous. So like usually they drop a beacon or something, or there's something that gives them the message that, hey, we're taking off, we'll be back, kind of thing. And there's nothing in this, which leads me to believe that either we're going to invent it after this, or this is just like, it makes no sense. Why can't they talk to them? If they're in between Echo 3 and something else, they must be able to send a message to the shuttle. Like
apparently
that,
not. The math doesn't add up.
I guess the math doesn't add up. Yeah, for sure.
He gets so mad at Tucker. He's like, the math doesn't work, Commander. And my other question here was that, like, it was, so they figured out if they turn down the heat, that they can conserve energy, or they can get more air out of it. First of all, they would use a lot less air talking as much as they do, but of course, it would be kind of a boring episode if it didn't have the dialogue. But on top of that, I'm like, they get the coats out, but I'm like, why are there no gloves? Why are there no like toques in this shuttle, or even spacesuits? Just
EVA,
to
Yeah, you'd think they'd have some sort of EVA stuff. But again, this could come down to this isn't what they were expecting.
We hadn't thought about
you can't
that
pack
yet.
for everything.
They are the least prepared astronauts.
How many times have you gone on a road trip, Dave, and forgot something? Like,
I'm not an astronaut. It's like,
and out of anybody, I think you would be the one that wouldn't, because you're pretty meticulous at planning. So it's
I've seen his golf bag. He's got a lot in there.
Oh, I've seen a lot of his golf bag. I know exactly what's in there, but he's prepared.
like when I went to NASA and Trevor Graff took us around, like I was like, he talked about how obsessive they were about redundancy and thinking about everything. And this is just to launch a satellite that's not even manned into space, right?
Yeah,
like,
but when you look at, even if you look at Apollo 11 and Apollo 13, both crews had problems because of the fact that they were missing things that they should have had. And, it's, if you look at Apollo 13, that's a very great example. It's like, well, we never thought that this would happen. So we, this was square and this was round. Like, it's like, never thought of making them the same, because why would we need to, right? Well, now
the real answer is Star Trek just loves to give this adversity to the characters. Tomorrow night, we're watching Deep Space Nine at 9ish. We're watching The Ascent, where Quark and Odo have to climb up the mountain, and a similar survival kind of a situation. Two bickering, odd couple kind of characters.
I can't say I like that episode, but I like the premise of the episode.
I like that episode, but it's again, like, you kind of got two people at odds, kind of getting more and more irritated with each other about like their survival situation.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway, we've 22 minutes and we haven't even really talked about the story that much.
Wait, Dave is right though. They should have bottled air at least, like some kind of.
They should have some sort of backup, but even a backup. Ask a scuba diver how long a tank lasts, right? Like that 4-hour tank isn't going to do you a lot of hill beans in the middle of space where you're not going to be able to communicate with anybody. Like, it's 4 hours. Is it worth a payload? Right.
Yeah.
So I guess that's their logic on that, right? Like yeah, you can have tanks and all that until you're blue in the face. And that's probably what they had, but they also have a recirculation system, and that's what was failing. Right. So it's, when you can scrub the air, you can get more use out of the air. But the one thing I did like was the fact that they did mention the cold versus hot thing, because in reality, if the air is heated, it'll escape quicker. So with that, if you make the environment cooler, you will have more air. So that's as logical as I can think it is. I'm certainly no science major, but that would make sense to me. But the episode essentially starts off with them coming back from this routine mission, and they end up seeing on the side of an asteroid where the Enterprise was, where they left them last. All of a sudden, they see like markings from essentially this. Now, I think they kind of jumped to conclusions a little too quickly here. Adam, you're muted. I can't hear Adam. Can you hear?
I said they did explain it.
There we go. Did they explain it? Okay.
Yeah, because they were talking about sensors being down, so they couldn't do readings on.
Yeah, right.
But you still would have a lot more than just one door. Like, this is all this is a door and a couple pieces of a bulkhead.
Visually speak, they could have, from just visual reference, it seemed like there's not enough debris here for the whole.
There's not enough to say that the whole ship's been killed. Like, yeah, there is obviously something has happened, but I don't know if I would instantly say, hey, everybody I know is dead because I see a door.
Exactly. Like, let's take there's no sausage section. There's no nacelles.
There's nothing here that would like, if there was pieces of the nacelles and pieces of like the saucer here, then I would say, yeah, okay, that's conclusive. But we have a door. Like, we have a door and some other debris. And yeah, I get it. Their sensors are down, so that's kind of weak. But I obviously we wouldn't have the episode if they had all these scenarios already covered, I guess. But either way, so that's our teaser. And then essentially our second point of this is
Hoshi.
Obviously the Hoshi thing.
She kind of explains everything that's happened. Like, don't worry, we're not all dead.
Yeah, she's literally just the narrator in this thing. She's a fancy version of the narrator.
But again, not annoying.
No. Honestly, I take back my annoyance with Hoshi. She's been solid for the last couple episodes. No issues here for me. So and actually, I can't think of any character that I really don't like right now. Trip.
I can.
Sometimes, well, Archer, I don't really hate him. Like, he's barely in this episode. Number one, good. So
we need a break.
So we already know Kevin's given this at least an 8. But actually, I don't even have.
He's in it more than I'd like, but he's in it. He's not in it that much.
I think you guys are so hard on Firk and Archer, and well, maybe not Adam, but you and Kevin are both hard on Archer, and I get why you're hard on Archer, but you can't compare him to every other more seasoned captain that you've seen in this series.
What? I can't?
No, you really shouldn't, because it's not the same thing. You're not comparing apples to apples.
I think that, we almost have to take the Ted Mater approach here. Is like,
The 10 meter approach. This wasn't made in the 70s or
no,
the 60s?
but it was set in the whatever year. It was set there.
2150s.
We didn't know how to do this stuff.
We didn't know there was like aliens out there.
They're
Yeah,
objectively dumber than we are now. Like it's like,
But
it's-
we're only that smart because we've had Star Trek to view. Maybe in this universe, Star Trek doesn't exist,
Well, Superman
because I guess it
exists.
wouldn't. So they haven't had the benefit of watching every season of DS9 to understand diplomatic relations with aliens.
He mentioned science fiction novels in at one point. He's like, "You guys don't have the core curriculum of the British school system," and
Yeah.
that's what he says.
you're
Superman was
busy
laced with
reading.
metaphor.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if I agree with that statement, but it's had some, I guess. But
Hmm.
the biggest issue I have with this episode, quite honestly, is talking about it, because it's, other than two guys trying to figure out a problem and getting drunk on a shuttle, what more is there to say about this episode? Like, there's nothing else going on with the supporting cast that's of
I have
any
some
value.
questions.
Here we go. We're back to questions again. All right.
Questions from Dave, because like we had thought there's the whole scene where they have to figure out what kind of rations they need to eat, right?
Yes.
And we thought that Reed hated fish, but then he chooses to eat the Chilean sea bass,
The
Jody,
Chilean sea bass, yeah.
and he kind of looks at Tucker, because Tucker's
But maybe
like,
that's to show us that he is progressing.
because Trip's like, guy meatloaf.
Any meatloaf?
Well, Trip's gonna have meatloaf because they don't have crawfish. So
they have no crawfish, no catfish,
no catfish.
and they're gonna use those potatoes later on
No
to
Cajun anything.
seal up the leaks in the ship and whatever.
Well, who knew that you could use mashed potatoes for that? Personally, I can't see how that would work, but
No.
Those got to be some thick ass
I
mashed
think
potatoes.
it worked for a couple minutes. They didn't need it long term.
Yeah.
Well, they
were-
just needed something. It was, gum would have made more sense, but maybe they don't have gum in this century. But
But
you
those
know,
potatoes
like,
have been sitting around for some time by the time they got to them, so they're
well,
like
they're
paste.
reconstituted, I'm guessing. So because they put them in some sort of
No.
Back to
I'm
the
saying
Future
that they didn't
thing,
really
so-
clean up after they ate.
No, there was like
Oh,
trays
so they've been
that
sitting
came
around for. So your theory is that they got a little thicker.
Yes.
All right,
Little
well, that's a
pastier.
good theory, I think. What do you think,
Yeah.
Dave? Do
I
we
buy
that?
I was not sure that you could use mashed potatoes as a hull breach sealant, even temporarily, but they made a pretty good job of they don't make episodes like this anymore. Like, yeah, that's you're right about that, Davin. The other one I wanted, and hence my my title for this is Stinky. Can we like this whole dream sequence?
Oh, this was dumb.
of
Okay, I understand that you guys are gonna not like this scene, and I don't really like the scene either. But hear me out for a second, okay? This, I think, is also progression of Malcolm, because Malcolm, as the stuck-up guy who's always by himself and always doing that, I don't think he would normally have dreams like this. So this is supposed to show that he's going a little off-hinged, and it's also showing that maybe he does have some sort of romantic interest to the people that he just lost, or he thinks he just lost. So to me, I think this is more of a caring thing, but yeah, it was sexualized, obviously. And let's
Like-
be honest, who wouldn't want her bouncing over you? Like, come on.
It's typical Brandon Braga stuff. You know,
Yes.
he wrote a
Very
similar
much.
scene where Harry Kim gets approached by 7 of 9, and you know, she's
Yes,
right,
yes, I
and like
remember
I
that.
was like, oh, this is like, it's just like a nerd.
I think this
fantasy.
is just fanfic for Brian Braga, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think like he's thinking a lot of the audience are going to put themselves into Malcolm's place here and go, oh, I would love if DePaul was all sensual and came on to me like this and whatever.
Well,
Hey,
this is a
Dave,
sexualized show. Let's be
And
honest.
wait a second, though, guys. It's like it's not so much her that bothers me in the episode; it's his dialogue.
His dialogue's terrible. His dialogue is absolutely terrible. But I think
Stinky.
I think it's supposed to show how awkward he is still,
He,
because he is awkward. He's like wicked.
You smiled when I said stinky.
yeah, but
He smiled
even
when I said stinky.
even when he's writing his old
It's
loves,
creepy.
yeah, but he's writing his old loves and he's using, I know that our relationship might have been unrequited and blah 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 blah. Like, stop, just
Yeah, the writing is very odd, but I think the premise of the shot makes sense. I just think the dialogue kills it. Because I understand this. I think it's supposed to show us that he's now caring for people that he's around, which is something he hadn't done before. So again, I still think this is a progression thing. I think it's just done poorly, but I still think it's a progression thing. At least I'm giving it the benefit.
This
of
is him mourning for T'Pol.
I don't know if it's mourning, so to speak. Like this is a dream he's having.
Because you
right?
think
so,
she's supposed to be dead, right? Like as well.
Yeah.
But in this
Well,
dream,
at least he
they've been
thinks she's
rescued.
dead.
So he's dreaming about being rescued.
Yeah.
And maybe he gets
Well,
But
he
I do like
calls
the
it-
contrast between this scene and the final scene, because the final scene is the exact same thing, just without the T'Pol being turned on or anything, right? So
he called, aren't you going to call me her? Well, he thinks that if she saw him as a hero, the true feelings would come out.
Yeah,
in his dream.
In his dream, yeah. That's when she would go, "Oh, most members of your
I
species pretty
think-
cowardly."
Yeah, I think the writing is what ruins the scene, but I think the scene itself kind of
Agree.
makes sense.
That's what I would say as well. I like the scene. I like T'Pol, but I don't like him and his dialogue.
Tokens don't smile.
And you have to admit, though, for a person who never acts like in this character, obviously she's not supposed to show any emotion. When she shows emotion, she lights up the room. Like she's got it for sure. It's just it's a terrible shame that she's playing a Vulcan, really, because she's got a wicked smile on her.
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
I think that they do their best with it, but like
It falls short. This is the one scene that falls short.
Yeah.
If I had to get rid of one scene, this would probably be the one.
No, I don't think it needs to be. I just wish it was written differently. That's all.
Yeah. It
but
kind of almost works, but it doesn't, right?
Maybe you're right, Jody. Maybe it does show his awkwardness and the fact that he can't connect with people.
Yeah, he's just an awkward guy, and even like when him and Trip are in the same room forced together, you can tell that there's not a lot of chemistry between the two of them until they get drunk, and then all of a sudden they're best friends, and But I like the fact that they did that, though. There's the minute we saw the bourbon bottle come out, we knew that there was going to be bourbon.
I don't drink on
somewhere.
duty. Come on.
Yeah, I don't drink on duty, dude. You're about to die. Okay,
Yeah.
it's time
Remind
to
us
not worry
about how you're
about
about to
duty.
die all over the place. Right?
And I think we're still in the point where we don't really have, we're in the point of the future where money is no longer an object, right? Or are we not there yet?
No, we are. Like
We're technically there, right? So literally getting in trouble while you're on a shuttle is really not that big of a deal. Like, let's be honest.
Archer might. I think
I would have liked to see a scene where Phlox is in the med bay and he's like, they'll be okay except for all the alcohol that they've drank.
Yeah,
and
after I give them the liver
Yeah.
treatments and whatever.
Yeah, it might need them liver treatments from all that. Now, I don't know how they managed to make that one bottle last as long as it did, because I'm almost positive if I'm in a shuttlecraft for a couple of days, that bottle's gone in the first.
Okay.
Like
Probably a couple
it's
hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I've seen you drink, Dave. A couple hours is probably pretty good. For
Probably accurate. Well,
you.
in my
you
heyday,
could polish it if you wanted to.
in my heyday, perhaps. Yeah.
For
I don't
sure.
know. I don't know how quickly they drink it, but they there's a couple. It's fun. It's whatever. It's like what they have to do to survive the cold, man. They had blankets at least.
There
At
you
least
go.
they got
had-
those out at one point.
Yeah, they had survival blankets of some sort, I guess. So but yeah, I don't get the impression that this is a sleep shuttle. This is more of a buzz around shuttle and get home kind of thing.
Hey, do you have a shot from the first scene or second scene early in the episode?
Yeah.
Just wondering if they did this over a couple days because Tucker's beard did grow pretty good.
Yes.
Like-
Well, we know that they've been in there for a couple days. Yeah.
I guess they could have done it with makeup, but yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, they might have just shot it over a couple days too.
Yeah.
They're like, why are you shaving, Malcolm? He's like, oh, I gotta look pristine when they find our corpses. He's like, guess what? Your fingernails and your hair are gonna keep growing, so you're gonna be a grizzly old.
Which is not
corpse.
true from what I remember.
An officer, you guys
Yeah.
are taking all my fun facts. Just leave it alone.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Leave it alone.
I think I'm right though that it's not true. But anyway.
I think it's true, but it's not that true. It's not. It's not like your fingernails
skin
grow.
recedes. That's the reason why it looks like your hair grows and your nails grow.
Stroke that off the list.
Anyway.
Well, we'll find out.
But I'm no science major, so we'll see in fun facts. Anyway.
Like, plot-wise, there's
I guess
not a
I
lot
ruined
of-
something for you there, Adam.
Like, plot-wise, we're not missing all that much, you know.
No, that's the problem. Like, it's a good episode and it's got a lot of great
Okay.
scenes, but
I would have
about
loved.
it,
I would have loved to seen the Enterprise show up on them, and tractor them in, or sorry, grapple them in.
grapple them in. Yeah,
get that
Yeah.
old grappler out. Love that.
And I would love to seen them open the door because I bet you that shuttle pod really stunk.
I bet it rank, and it would have been even better if T'Pol was the one that opened it.
Like,
If T'Pol opened it and went, "Oh, I guess I'm
Need
gonna
my
need those things
nasal
again."
suppressant.
Yeah, or she just goes, "I gotta go, Captain," and she walks back into the. I gotta go do something, Captain.
So they got Lysol cans.
Yeah, that would have been funny. I don't know if they would have put that in there.
No,
but
they wouldn't have. It's just,
No, I don't. I think that's pushing it. The bum thing was enough. I think they already pushed the envelope for Star Trek at that point.
She's got a
But,
nice bum.
Yeah, she's got a nice bum. Don't tell me you haven't looked at
No.
it.
Good bum.
I just love how he says that to him though. Like he just
Bum.
says it. No, yeah. Well, no, not the bum part. Just the don't
Oh.
tell me you didn't look or something like that. The way he says it is just like it's. And then the look on Tucker's face is just like, yeah, okay, you got me. Right.
It's kind of like another thing that would have been cool is that if they finished the episode with them conscious and looked at each other after something funny like that, or she walked away, it would have been a nice way to wrap it up.
Yeah, I guess that would be good. The one other thing we didn't really maybe talk about in the episode was like I guess when Tucker is considering the self-sacrifice to kind of like give Reed
Yes, actually, a
more
really
air.
cool scene. I thought.
Right. He's like, I'm gonna go up into the airlock because I guess it makes sense. Like there's only so much air left because they lose one of their air tanks, right? At one point, and like
Oh, there was that whole micro thing,
Singularities
that to Paul and Archer were arguing about.
right?
Yeah, which I liked that argument. I liked the fact that Archer's like, oh yeah, you guys would blame everything like the common cold on that if you could, and she's like, there's a lot of evidence to prove that it actually could exist.
Well, they had to tie it into what happened with the shuttle, and there we are.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. Like, it was kind of a role reversal because normally it's T'Pol telling Archer like time travel doesn't exist, dummy, and like
that comment's not interesting.
Who cares? Gas giants, whatever. But
Yeah,
like this was like this was like the Vulcan version of that. Like he's like Vulcans have been theorizing about this for a while. Nobody can prove it. There's no science behind it, but your Vulcans are convinced that this could be a thing. And
The fact that they're even theorizing about things, I think, is interesting because I never think of them as being people that are theorizing about stuff. They just figure it out, like they're done, right? So it's kind of interesting that they can have open theories still. Like to me, the Vulcans, it doesn't make sense for Vulcans to have open theories. Like it would either be like it either is or isn't kind of thing. They're very black and white. But
well, they're practical, but
they are practical, yeah, which makes sense. It's just something that didn't occur to me, but that doesn't mean that they wouldn't. It's just I just thought that was interesting.
But normally, I do like this idea that there would be like scientific debate between Earth and Vulcan at this point in history, and like sort of like because I think we often get the sense of like, well, Earth is like kind of like a lesser species at this time compared to the Vulcans, who are way more advanced and have done way more, and maybe it's not quite. They're not that much better than us in all reality. Like they're in some departments maybe, but
But I think that this is one thing that this show has actually done is show the Vulcans are not perfect.
That's right. Yeah, it's refreshing, and I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people didn't like the show was because of that. I think there's a lot of preconceptions about how the way they treat Vulcans and some of the other races. But when Discovery showed me the Klingons, that the bar went down. Like it's like instantly, it's like, okay, yeah, we can do whatever we want at this point.
but other than like in Next Gen, I mean, they didn't really deal with the Vulcans too often, other than Sarek.
Well, and you never really got the impression that they were really in charge of anything. Like they were respected, and people
diplomats.
They were sought after to find out information and stuff like that, but they were not like, they were more like the wise men of the Federation. Like they were, they've been around the block, they kind of know some of this stuff, but they weren't really advisors I guess they were advisors, but they weren't really, we weren't looking to them for everything. Where in this universe right now, it almost looks like that is what we're doing. Like literally everything it's got to go through Vulcan first.
Well, this series is way more about Vulcan than any of the other series. You know, like
yes, there is a lot more Vulcan on it. Yep, for sure.
Spock and Tuvok, like the amount of Vulcan stuff they got into was somewhat limited. You know, in a lot of ways, it was mostly about how Spock was different than the rest of the crew, and also Tuvok. But this is more about like there's many Vulcans, there's many humans in the mix, and they're sort of like we're seeing that play out.
But butting heads, as well.
Well, it's like the Vulcans are the humans' trustees, and they have to keep them on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
They're our guides.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
But yeah, well, then there's like I thought that the ending was a little bit anticlimactic because again, just like last week, it ends in sick bay, just this wide shot on the beds.
They love to end this in the end episodes of this series in sick bay, don't they? There's a lot of them actually.
I thought Tucker that Tucker would wake up at the end and they might say something to each other, but no, he's asleep for it, right? Like through the end.
Yeah, he's pretty much still out at the end of it. Overall, like the ending itself, to me, it's again the one thing that I always have a problem with Enterprise is I always find that the ending is a little too fast. It's a little too fast.
It's a little abrupt. Yeah, it just kind of ends all of a sudden.
Yeah, I always get that last 3 minutes, and then it's like, okay, and summary, we're done. Last shot. Okay, we're done.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That it would be kind of cool to see Enterprise looking for them, and
I could have did with less of the Malcolm, moaning and doing all these fights about his logs that he's making, and give me a little bit more of the Enterprise showing up and stuff like that. Yeah,
or maybe less fantasies of T'Pol hitting on him in the
Well, they could have easily shortened that scene down. Like they could have shortened that down to half the size of it, and it would have been just as fine. They kind of dragged it out a bit. There's a good shot of the shuttle right there.
Yeah, there's a shot of the shuttle. Yeah, when they jettison.
So, but it's overall, it's a decent episode. It's one of those episodes that yes, you should watch. I think it's definitely a good first season episode. There's way worse episodes in this season than this for sure.
Okay, here's an engineering question because I've got one. So the shuttle is going X speed when it's got the engine in.
Impulse,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And they jettison it blows up, then they're actually touched by the shockwave. Wouldn't they be going faster or at least the same speed forever? I don't understand why they slow down.
There's no resistance in space, so
Right.
realistically, they should be maintaining the speed at least.
Yes.
Yes.
So whatever speed they were doing, they should be maintaining. I don't know about the shockwave if that would mess them up,
But regardless, they shouldn't slow them down.
it shouldn't slow them down because in theory it would be like a wave in the ocean, right? Like you would get hit with it, and like that's how surfers move, right? Like it's they're stagnant until they get hit by a wave, right? So it's
But
in
the
reality,
way it was is, I mean, the shuttle pod started to,
the thing I didn't like was the fact that they said that when they were going to jettison, then you're taking away impulse. We will have nothing. We'll be dead in the water. Well, how are you dead in the water? Now, the only thing I can think of is if the impulse engines are needed to power some other systems, which is possible,
like maneuvering thrusters,
stuff like that. So yeah, I guess in a way maybe they would lose control.
Sure, but then they tumble. I mean, that's believable. Not slow
Either
down.
tumble or they just wouldn't be able to guide themselves anywhere. So literally, if they were pointed in,
they'd be on
they would just
they'd be
fly
on a
right into
trajectory.
it.
There'd be nothing to stop them.
There'd be nothing to stop them or move them or course correct them.
Right.
So I guess maybe that's what they meant. That one touched me hard too. So yeah, I was like, wait a second. If you get rid of your engines, but you're already going at, let's say you're going at one impulse power, whatever the unit of measure is, full impulse power, and you jettison your engine, wouldn't you still be doing full impulse? Because
yes,
there's nothing stopping you in space. Now, some would say there's
half
debris and
impulse.
Stuff. There's space dust and stuff like that. It's not a total.
There's gravity too, and depending on what's around them, they
Yeah, so I guess they would eventually slow down, but they could also easily speed up too. They could end up entering an orbit and speed up like nuts, and then hit a planet. Like it's, I guess in theory, but I'm no physics major. I'm no science major, so I'll leave that to somebody else. But it hit me like that too, Adam. I was thinking the same thing.
It's crazy to me that they couldn't be in communications with each other through all this, like more so than or sensor range or whatever. But it is what it is. Because they kind of talk about like, we're just a blip on T'Pol's radar right now, but if we make something blow up, they'll see us.
Yeah, they'll see us kind of thing, which in a way is kind of a neat thing. I thought that was kind of cool because, T'Pol would have long range sensors. She'd be able to see that they're there, but she wouldn't know the status. Like, she wouldn't know the status of the ship. She wouldn't know what's going on in the ship, which something that we see later on in future Star Trek stuff. But this being rudimentary, I don't think it would be necessarily that far-fetched to think that she wouldn't know what's going on. Because NASA, even though NASA right now can send spacecraft to the moon, but they still have a delay. But they do at least know what's going on. But I would assume that the distance is much greater in this episode.
Yeah, there's like millions and millions of kilometers, right?
Yeah, millions at this point. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, the ending is abrupt, and yes, does end in sick bay again. I think this will be the third or fourth episode that ends in sick bay. So at a 16, you would have to say probably a quarter of the episodes end in sick bay. I guess they're just proud of that sick bay set. It is a nice looking set.
It's fine, but
But as far as I know, there's only 3 beds because we only ever see the one angle.
Listen, man. Yeah. I just spent a week in whatever time amount with Tucker in a shuttle. I don't want to be next to him in the bedroom or in the hospital beds.
Yeah, they could have at least spaced them out, like in, the stalls in the bathroom. Ask any man going into bathroom.
Yeah, and there's no curtains between them.
Right?
Like, where's the curtains?
Yeah, like when you step up to that urinal, it's just you just don't go to the one that's right beside the guy. Like, you always go to the one over if you can, right?
Yeah, and
that's the way it works.
This
it's not a written rule,
In COVID world, you're looking for those barricades these days, right? So.
Yeah, I guess. But anyway, but either way, why don't we get to fun facts? I think we're pretty much done with this episode, unless anybody else has something to say.
Okay, so this episode came about when the production started to run low on budget, and that's why I'm kind of interested to know where we were in the season, right? In order to cut costs, they were forced to do an episode that would almost completely situated in one location and focused on the interaction between 2 characters. However, these limitations worked to a lot of creative advantage, and Shuttlepod One became one of the most popular episodes around cast and crew.
Yeah, like I think sometimes just let your actors do their thing, and it's not all Star Trek has to be flashy and action packed.
Right, and we needed a better understanding of who Reed is, and actually,
I think we got a little bit of character development for both of them. I think we got more from Malcolm.
Yes, I agree.
But it's, I think Trip, we still got a little bit into him as well.
Yeah, and more on the budget. This is Enterprise's first so-called bottle episode, a low-budget episode made with existing sets and relatively few cast members, and special effects to save money for more expensive episodes that are coming. Although the practice is older, and the term bottle episode actually originated during production of the original Star Trek, where cast and crew were referred to them as the ship in a bottle episodes, since they usually took place entirely aboard the ship.
Yeah.
The Dorton's best...
Or caves.
Or caves.
Yeah.
The Dorton's Best Kentucky Bourbon is a fictional name for Louise Dorton, the show's art director. And the bottle was actually a bottle of Frizz vodka bottle. So, yeah, it was a cool bottle. Cool looking bottle.
I wouldn't want any. I hate bourbon.
I like bourbon. So
it's the grossest.
I like it mostly to cook with, though.
This is the only episode of any Star Trek that did not feature any actors other than the regular cast. When I read that,
yeah, that's true. There's no extras or anything.
Nobody. So this is a really cheap episode for them.
Yeah, I guess it would be.
Yeah. As a possible species he and Reed could be running into, Tucker names the Vulcans, Klingons, Suliban, Andorians, and Xyrillians. Those are all warp-capable species the Enterprise has encountered in the first several occasions during the mission so far. And possibly for Tucker more memorable to contact with. So I mean, he's just thinking of who he knows at this point.
There's also those sketchy aliens who were doing those weird things, like you remember the guys, the weird looking aliens guys?
Yep.
Oh yeah, the almost Mars Attacks inspired.
Yeah, the Mars Attacks guys. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When Reed attempts to shovel his beard stubble, Tucker derides his action as pointless. He says that all nails and hairs continue growing after death. Reed accepts this statement as true, but the concept is misstated. the skin and hair around the nails and cuticle recedes, causing the illusion of growth.
Okay.
I knew that.
Jody got that right.
So
All right. I got one.
in that, I guess the beard doesn't grow then.
No, your face sucks in a little bit.
Well, yeah, I guess you'd see a 5 o'clock shadow or something. So
Yeah.
This
I
is
don't
the
know
first
why it matters when you're dead, but apparently
Yeah.
it does. Anyway,
Well, open cast.
I'd be more worried about frostbite and stuff like that. That would be obviously taking place eventually.
Okay, this
What
is
about-
the first. Go ahead.
What about Ruby?
I'm getting there. The
Okay.
first episode in which no scene takes place on the bridge of the Enterprise, which is good. And finally, Ruby. I'm curious about Ruby, a waitress at the 602 Club that Reed and Tucker mentioned were both involved with. They mentioned they were both involved, which was a funny scene.
Yeah.
Is later seen in Star Trek Enterprise First Flight in the flashback in 2143. We're looking for that, guys.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So we got to watch
First
after
flight's
that.
coming up.
Bridget Brana played Ruby in the
first
season.
flight that's still in the first season, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's a flashback episode.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I'll leave it here, guys. That Tucker mentions the bottle of whiskey that Reed finds in the shuttle pod was put there by Archer with the intent to gift it to someone. Didn't you find that weird? I did.
Well, does he just put bourbon in every single one of the shuttles, and then whichever shuttle goes out, that's the one he's giving it out to?
Is he taking crew people for a ride and getting them liquored up, or what's he doing out there?
Archer's going through the cast and crew list. Maybe that's what he's doing.
So anyway,
Here, baby, I'm a captain. Have some bourbon.
But he doesn't
All like Zap
remember.
Brannigan style.
Right, he doesn't remember who. The episode never reveals who that whiskey was intended for. But the most logical candidate for this Archer would be Antipal's aborted diplomatic trip to the Cordian capital city.
The Cordon. Yeah.
Pardon me. Yeah, Cordian.
Yeah, could've been.
To that what was her like? She was like the president of Corridon last week, Jody, right? Where she was like,
Yeah.
"There's no civil war."
Yeah. So maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because they took Shuttlepod One as well. It was the
Yeah,
same
they did.
Shuttlepod.
right?
So yeah, maybe that's who it was for.
That's logical. That makes sense.
Cool. That's kind of neat. I like it when they put little things like that.
One more, just for fun, is Dominic Keating did cite this as his favorite episode, probably because he was in it so much.
Well, it's maybe he just likes to see himself, but no, I think it's probably more character development stuff. Like his character's pretty bland until probably the birthday episode, and then after that, they really do run with him a little bit more, especially more than Trip. Actually, I think they focus a lot on Malcolm in the first season compared to Trip. And even when the Makos come in, that's
Trip
a
gets
whole
so
other...
much more time with Archer, and he's in so many more scenes than Reed is, right? Or
Trip's, yeah, but when you look at Trip scenes, though, they're almost all like the same type of scene where he's updating Archer on something. So it's
Fixing
like,
something.
Or fixing something, yeah. So like you're not really seeing a lot of development. Like we get it, he's an engineer, he's gonna fix shit. We get it.
Or he's yelling at another species.
Yeah.
Or he's there to be like the angel or the devil on his shoulder between him and DePaul when they're kind of coming at Archer with like the two different perspectives and whatever. So but Reed, he's like, as far as like tactical armory officers go, all of that kind of thing, like, he's very different energy than like a Tuvok or a Worf or anybody like that, like he's so primitive.
He's not very confident. He's not a confident guy. Like you don't see him.
Well, that's the thing, and I think that's what they're trying to build, is because when we first meet Reed, he's a very, what's the word? Very closed. He doesn't really talk
stuffy,
to anybody.
perhaps?
Very well, stuffy, even, I guess, for lack of a better term. But
Always seemed a bit too stuffy.
well, that's because she likes it when he calls him stinky. But anyway, I just think maybe that's what they're trying to do. Like when we look at Worf is very out there. Like he's very. But even if you look at Worf in the first couple seasons, like the first couple seasons of Next Gen, Worf was a different character. It's almost like he changed over seasons. So it's I think the writing got a little bit better for him because he was almost like just the guy that was there. And even when we did the radio theater episode recently where we have him and Tasha both like reacting to the same thing. I love that line, by the way.
There was a bit of redundancy with their two characters.
There is a lot of redundancy between those two characters, so it kind of made sense. But
she needed to go.
Yeah.
She did need to go, but I'm glad that they brought her back for some of the stuff that she did.
Oh, how they brought her back was great. No
yeah,
doubt.
I liked Denise Crosby as an
Sela.
actress in that.
Sela.
Her as Sela is fantastic. She's born
Great
to play
villain.
that role.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
she's got that evil in her, which is great.
That
but anyway.
walk-in when she was revealed was fantastic.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, I love that. That's probably still one of my favorite episodes of Next Gen.
How are they going to explain this?
Yeah, how are they going to explain that Denise Crosby is standing right there, and then it went to commercial,
And
then
she's
you're
got
like, what the
Romulan
fuck?
ears. And
Yeah. Why does she have Romulan ears? This is interesting. Yeah. So, but very cool on their part. Anyway, speaking of cool, you know what's cool? Giving ratings. That's what's cool.
Sure is.
Let's do that because the cool kids give ratings on Excel spreadsheets.
We do. This is how you
Yes.
do it, Jody.
This is how you do
Shuttlepod
it.
One. What
Shuttlepod
do you give
Run. I'm going to give this, you know what? It's not my favorite episode, but you know what? It's a good episode. I'm going to give this an 8.
All right. Oh,
Oh, our formatting is a
Okay,
little off
Adam.
there. There we go.
I'll give it an 8 as well.
okay.
Good, but not great.
I'm exactly the same. I'm an 8 for this.
And Davin sent in his was a 9.
Really?
Nine.
Yep, he gave it a 9. He loves this episode. He even messaged the channel right after that episode.
So
And
yeah, I
he's
saw
like,
that.
I love this episode.
Like, show me Davin's ratings. Like, is he done more than just those?
He's only
like-
done these 4
Yeah,
episodes.
we haven't got all the ratings for him yet.
He likes Enterprise.
He loves Enterprise.
Yeah, he's a big fan.
He was very
Actually,
excited.
I
when
would
he
say
found out
he's
we
more
were-
excited about it than I am. And I like Enterprise.
I'd like to see what he rates the Fortunate Son.
I've always been fighting with everybody about Enterprise on how they got to give it a chance because it's good.
It is good.
It just
I'm
takes a while.
Yeah.
It takes a while to get into. It's a slow burn. I
I
get
wonder
it.
what Kevin would have.
But
given
DS9 was a slow burn too. Anybody who says DS9 was great after season 1 is full of shit.
Nobody
Because
says that, Jody.
I
Nobody.
hope not. Because it wasn't
No,
good.
they really shouldn't.
You know what's really
know,
great though? The Star Trek movies from 2009 on. I love them.
We never got your. We never
I
got
don't know
your
if
rating-
I'd agree with you on that one, but anyway.
No, I know. I just poking
Let's
the
check
bear.
those ratings because we didn't like them as much, Adam. Well, we liked the first one, but
First one was decent.
the second two we did not like.
I
as much.
gotta make this bigger because I gotta see this because I haven't seen this in ages.
Uh,
What did I give? Where am I?
Okay, I totally buy the motion picture ratings.
I gave it a 7.
oh yeah,
I
we
gave it a
did not
7.
like that. But it was really like kind of up and down and all over
But
the place. Right?
You only gave like Rathacon 7.5. That's interesting.
Look at what they did to
Average.
Nemesis though. 2.6 for Nemesis. Bullshit. That's
That
worth
was
at least.
generous.
That
Generous.
is worth at least a 4.
I actually gave it a 0.
Oh yeah, she hates it.
Oh,
Terribly
that's
hates it.
great.
I gave it a 3, and I think that was too high.
No.
I agree
Nemesis
about
is great.
Generations. I agree with Undiscovered Country was great. Love that movie. I hated Final Frontier.
Undiscovered Country, in my opinion, should be the best of all the Star Trek movies. But we
A Voyage Home. you
We
guys
rated
way
First
overrated
Contact
that
better.
one.
What's that?
Voyage Home was overrated, guys. 8.8.
I
really.
completely agree. And if you look at my score compared to everybody else, with the exception of Jaemeel,
Yeah.
that would reflect that.
You're crazy.
It was good.
It was amazing. Best
Was
Star
it
Trek movie
amazing
ever.
for a Star Trek movie, though? That's the thing.
Yes.
It's good as a comedy. Great comedy. Right up
Star
there
Trek-
with like Beverly Hills Cop and everything.
First
Alright,
Contact 9.5, 9.3. I like that. Insurrection. Yeah.
I can add a column in here for you, Adam, if you ever want to.
Yeah. Throw one in. I'll send them to you tonight.
All right,
Cool.
I'll do it.
Maybe he'll up some of these.
Well, certainly Into Darkness.
I hope Nemesis at least.
I didn't mind Nemesis, but I didn't love it. But I didn't
I
mind it.
like Nemesis. Nemesis.
You're
is
the
a
only
Star-
one.
Nemesis has the best opening intro to any Star Trek movie. Period.
I felt really bad for Tom Hardy when I learned that he went depression and oh my god.
Oh
I feel
yeah. Well,
He's
people were
not
hard
what
on
I
him
hate
on that
about the
one.
movie. His outfit, maybe, but
His outfit's terrible. I'll give
yeah.
you that. But anyway.
Anyway, so those are the movie ratings, and what's been interesting is like I've combined all of our ratings docs together now, and
Oh,
now I'm
geez.
starting to like who really likes Star Trek the most. The answer
So who's winning right now? Probably Davin.
right now,
Me and Davin.
Davin and Adam.
but you guys have less ratings overall, and like, and,
Yeah.
You know what? I'm right in the middle. That's where I should be. I completely agree with these ratings.
yeah, and so
You
yeah,
were pretty
it's-
hard on original series, Jody.
I was hard on the original series for damn good reason. That show is not nearly as good as everybody claims it is. There are some great episodes. Don't get me wrong, but
You were objectively the
that
lowest
series.
on that.
I'm not accepting the Ted Mater way of saying things.
You were the
which is,
Kevin of that
it was
show.
made in the 60s. It was fine. No, it wasn't fine. It was garbage then. There are some great episodes, but there is, for every one good episode, there's 2 or 3 shit episodes. And that's
Well,
just
we know what Ted thought of you in one of those episodes. So.
Oh yeah, he gave me so much shit in that.
That was the one where I also hated it, though. I was like, Dad,
Yeah,
this
you
sucks.
hated it. You said almost the same shit, but your dad told me I'm an
He's
asshole.
like, no.
Like, basically.
No, he said you're an idiot. He didn't say you're an
Yeah, he
asshole.
told me
How
I'm an idiot.
dare you insult Gary 7?
Yeah, Gary 7 is that was a terrible episode.
I like Gary 7. That was a good episode.
Oh, it was so bad.
I know it was one of the most polarizing episodes, just like the
It was
the Ryza
literally
episode.
the episode where you're like, well, if we're gonna try to sell toys, this would be how to do it. Like that's literally that episode. It's so terrible.
Yeah.
So garbage. I hate
I am-
that episode.
I'm really looking forward to maybe one day we'll do Star Trek: The Next Generation once.
Oh,
D6
I don't know
Nine
if
wraps.
I'm ready for that.
Oh, I
Because
do.
if I hear anybody criticize my next gen, it'll be a problem.
But
Come
again,
on.
like the first 2
well,
seasons.
the first 2 seasons, no problem. You can
Wesley
criticize those.
Crusher.
Yeah, there's.
You know what? I don't hate Wesley nearly as much as most people do.
I'm going to buy a Wesley Crusher shirt. Start
Do it.
wearing it.
Do it.
Wesley grew on me in time, but like early
as
season
an
1,
adult.
Wesley. Yeah.
Once he grew up, he was much better. But
The problem is the first couple times he is introduced into the series are terribly written for him. Like this is a kid who can do drama. Like he can do drama. He came off of like movies like Stand By Me and stuff like that. Like kid's not terrible. It's fine, Sam, if you like it.
He loves the
I'm not
original
saying
series.
I don't like Tia.
And he thinks Ted is the GOAT, greatest of all time.
Oh well, you're clearly wrong there, Sam. But anyway, maybe in the 60s, Ted was the GOAT. Not anymore. You know what? I used to like Sam. I'm thinking maybe I don't like Sam anymore. No, I'm just kidding.
I like you, Sam.
But I think
Um,
Sam's fine.
Will we
I
be
like
covering
Sam.
Big Brother Canada tonight? I don't think so. I don't think we'll be covering it tonight. Probably on Wednesday. Because it's
There's too much Big Brother.
there's too much Big Brother. Yeah, you're right.
That
good segue,
occupies
Dave.
a lot of time.
What else are you covering?
Yeah. What are the other things that we cover on this episode on this channel there, Dave?
Shows from the 60s, Sam.
There are some great shows in the 60s.
Jody is also the GOAT.
Star Trek is not one of them, but I do agree with that statement down there. That is a good statement. I
We
like
might have some GOAT wars, you and Ted.
that.
Like,
I respect Ted's opinion, even though he's wrong.
he would probably say the same for you.
Probably.
But-
And then he would call me an idiot.
You're nothing but an idiot.
You're just an idiot.
Slam, gone.
I'm going out of here. Don't you tell me Gary Seven's not the best. Anyway, so
Kiss my ass. But anyway.
So fun. That was great.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
no, it's a couple times in my life where I've seen my dad like lose it. You know, it's like yeah.
I've
was
never
one.
seen him lose it. Like I've seen him like do some weird shit, and like I've never seen him lose it like that. I was like, wow, I really hit a nerve.
There's never any warning either. It's always out of
No,
nowhere.
it's just like he was instant serial killer mad. Like he was like, you know, I'm
Gary
like, wow.
Seven's the greatest.
Like I
Jody.
knew he loved Star Trek, but I didn't know he loved Star Trek. Like wow,
He likes that one, and I was like, "This is the weirdest episode I've ever watched."
I don't think
was
I've
with you
ever
that
called
night.
anybody an idiot because they like something. But
We need a rap battle. Ted versus Jody.
I'm in. I'm in.
Okay.
I'd do a rap battle. for
That's
sure.
that I will.
I think you might have to
certainly-
explain what a rap battle is to Ted, but
Yes, no, I'll train him. I will be. I'll be
Hey,
like
well, if you
Dave,
train him, I'm definitely in.
Does Ted still have the poster behind it, like the up in the kitchen or wherever he did the episodes?
Oh, in his office. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
Oh,
I think it's always been there. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
I don't
it's
think
been-
that was coincidence. I think that was.
It's been so
I think
long
he's
since I've done a
always had
podcast with him, so it's
Well,
'cause
you should go talk to your dad.
I saw him yesterday.
All right, good.
Yeah. Anyway, what else do we got here on the network? Well, Jody, in a week's time, what's the next episode we're talking about here on Star Trek Enterprise?
Oh, that's
Episode
true.
8?
I guess I should probably talk about that. Give me 1 second here. I
Well, you
already
think
have it
about
written down.
that. Every Tuesday night, we do Star Trek D Space Nine at 9-ish, where we talk about the next episode in order. Tomorrow's episode, what are we doing tomorrow? We're doing the episode called The Ascent. That's the one with Odo and Quark getting crash landed on a planet, having to climb the mountain together. It's also about Jake and Nog trying to be roommates together, which is another interesting angle to that episode.
It instantly
what-
gets a -2 for me if Jake's in
What
it.
about the anime? Yeah, you're right. One day we do need to do the animated series.
I'll
And-
cover the animated series.
Yeah.
I have
I
no
will
problem
not.
doing that. I've never
Twisted.
watched it. I'll
How many
give it a shot.
episodes?
It's not
Too
a lot.
many. Too many.
More than
I know
more
it's not good.
It's
We
it's
should
a
probably get Ted
continuation.
on it though.
It
It's
is a continuation, and they got the original voices, so it does have two things for it. But it's
Getting my dad to watch a cartoon would be the real
That
like
would be the hard
adventure.
part. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
So
We can't even get him to watch Enterprise, and that's like not a cartoon.
right. Every also on Thursdays we're always talking about the newest episodes of Star Trek because that's often when CBS and Paramount and Viacom and whoever they always put out their new episodes on Thursday. It seems like. So this Thursday we got the third episode of season 2 of Star Trek Picard, covered by Jody and Adam and Davin. They're going to talk about that one. I'll be talking
It's
about with
awesome.
Michael.
Well, hopefully Adam shows up on time this time.
I think he'll. I think he will this time. And then
Think so? 8
and then
o'clock.
I'll be talking with Michael Chan about the finale of Star Trek Discovery, which is also coming out this Thursday. It's called Coming Home.
I wonder what the cliffhanger will be for the final season.
I think we're just going to see Species 10C finally. Adam, you're welcome to join us if you can make it. Of course,
9:30, right? 9:30.
9:30, yeah.
All right.
Not 8 o'clock.
Jody.
We'll send him over after we're done with him.
Yeah, right.
I'm sure he'll be more excited about my episode than yours.
It's a conclusion. It's going to be good.
Yeah, like we're getting the end of season 4, and then I can join the Picard podcast next week when I can fit both in.
Maybe you can learn how to rate it.
I can.
You can call me an idiot now if you want.
You guys gotta go back. You guys gotta go back and rate those first season episodes. Like,
I'll do that. No problem.
Yeah,
I just
the
rewatched them all.
The sheet's there, so whenever you guys,
You know what? I'm not saying season 1 was better because it wasn't.
Guys, my average is like 7 point something. But
yeah,
you
that's too low. It's
I
been
think-
phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm just.
But anyway,
I rate a lot of Star Trek,
Dave, everybody has their own opinion, and every opinion is valid here.
except mine.
Oh, Jody, you're an idiot.
I never said that.
I thought that's where you were.
I
going
think
with
your opinion is valid.
Okay. Thank
be
you, Jody.
wrong,
I
but it's
appreciate
valid.
it's wrong, but valid. And also, you should check out here on Live Long and Podcast, we do something called Star Trek Radio Theater, which we kind of on a monthly basis. So we've done 2 for this new year in 2022. We just released the edited version of the most recent record, which was
I had
Hiding
a hell of
Q.
a lot of fun with this one.
Yeah, Jody playing Q. We had Steve Shives playing Riker. I was playing Picard in this one. Jody, have you listened to the edited version yet?
I have.
What'd you think?
Not bad.
I thought.
But I will tell you, if you look at YouTube, though, the live version has a lot more views on it.
Oh, it does. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
got Steve's face on
It's
it.
got
too, right?
Steve's in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Steve's the showstopper right there.
Right.
the guy.
So we often put out like the live version. That's like the live read, and then like the edited version is more like a polished episode.
The live has all the crappy mistakes that are in it. And
Yeah.
then
The live's more of like
the edit is the more professional one.
Right. Yeah. And whatever when people
A lot
don't
of fun,
remember to turn
though.
on their
A lot of fun.
microphones and
I
all
don't do
those
it
kinds of
often,
things.
but when I do it, I have a lot of fun.
This was good. You nailed your performance as Q, I will say. Jody.
Well, I got to learn to pronounce things, but past that.
Aldebaran, was
Aldebaran, I still have
that
a
was your
problem
one thing, but
I can say it as long as somebody has said it within the last 5 minutes, but past that, nope. I even asked you before we started how to say it, and everybody told me again, and I still screwed it
yeah,
up.
me and Steve are like Aldebaran. You say
Yeah.
Aldeb, and you're like, okay, Deb, and you're like
Yeah, Deb.
Aldebarian serpent. And we're like,
Yeah. But it made for a good joke that Steve.
it made a
ended up
good
playing
joke
on,
too.
which I thought
His
was great.
pronunciation's shoddy, but he's got us
Yeah.
there, sir.
But he's got us there, sir.
It's a good improv.
Great.
So check
It
out
was
our
very
Star Trek radio theaters. Also, we have Super Mario Brothers podcasting. Most actively right now, we're covering Survivor season 42. We're doing that on Wednesdays, and when we can fit in like a check-in of Big Brother Canada 10, we're definitely doing that as well. But it's just been hard to keep up with all the Star Trek and all the Big Brother right now. That's going
And eventually there will be another podcast, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But I don't want to say anything just in case Sam's still watching.
I also need to plug Trivial Debates, our monthly show. We argue about movies, TV, sports, and more. And we have our next lineup. We got Max Duda competing. We got Jaemeel Robinson versus Jody Simpson versus Worf, son of Moog.
Yes, I'm actually very worried about Worf. I feel he's going to be a insane contender.
He's not your problem.
No, you think it's Jaemeel?
Jaemeel is.
Yeah, well, Jameel's a hard competitor for sure. So.
Yeah.
Jaemeel was the hardest one I think ever that I've gone against.
Jaemeel is very good at arguing.
Jaemeel would make a great Tellarite because he just likes
Yes, he would
debate and argue things.
But he's a horrible judge. I'll say that.
He's a horrible judge. I'll give you that.
Yes. And then you should check out our friend's podcast, Michael Chan. He's got the Hellbound podcast with Alex Blackburn, a horror podcast he does every Wednesday. If you like Gilligan, it's coming, Sam. It's coming. And then one day,
Dave's like, the worst thing I ever did was give Jody the ability to admin this channel.
It wouldn't take long. We could do 2 episodes a week.
If we could do a whole season as one podcast, I would definitely be more into that.
A little bit of
the Hellbound podcast, Michael Chan, Alex Blackburn. He just did an interview also on Saturday. He's also the GOAT. And Eamon Mader's got a podcast. It's called Let's Talk About Fighting Games under his alias Sam Jerka. He does with Sonic Smash Bros. Seth and Paranoia. Check that out. They talk about Street Fighter 5 and all kinds of
I like
games.
Street Fighter.
Yeah, you should go on that podcast, Jody.
You know what? I've never been invited.
Well,
I have a rule. I don't beg to show up on shows unless it's this one. And that's it. So
there's 98 episodes of Gilligan's Island. That's a lot.
Oh, there's a lot of episodes, man. That's when they're cranking out episodes of
my
shows.
God. We'd have
only
to do
22 minutes. Yeah, you'd have to
do like 4 of them a night.
Yeah,
be able to like do it in a decent.
Are they like
period.
continuations or they're all standalone episodes?
They're almost all standalone.
But there are some.
There are a couple that are like 2 or 3 episode arcs. Yeah.
Well, then you can definitely put those into one podcast. Anyway, so those are all of our friends' podcasts.
It's going to be more than a 3-hour tour. Let's put it that way.
A 3-hour tour. I'm going to add that to my soundboard just so that I can get.
Just so you can throw that in once in a while.
I will get Ted Mader back here for that. He would have
get Ted Mader for Gilligan's Island. Just so you know, I'm going to make it very clear. I do not want to be on that podcast.
You should be able to like submit ratings.
I'm not showing up.
Yeah,
I'm not going to watch them.
You'd be like, I don't like this.
Honest with you.
It's like Gary
I'm not interested
7
anymore.
Yeah,
I loved Gilligan's Island as a kid. I watched it all the time.
I watched it when I was younger. I'm good. I'm done. I'm over it.
I like Get Smart better.
I have some
Get
opinions.
Smart was fun. I love Get Smart.
All right. Is there anything else that we've missed?
I didn't actually tell you what next week's episode is for Enterprise.
Oh.
So I guess I'll tell you that now. I do actually have it written down. The episode's name is Fusion. And this is the crew of the Enterprise meets a group of outcast Vulcans who embrace their own emotions.
I like this episode.
This is a great episode.
Yes.
And we were just talking about how like none of the other shows really showed Vulcans interestingly. This is a fucking cool episode for that. Oh, I probably shouldn't say that, but anyway. So now I got a stupid rating. Now I just said a bad word.
Stinky.
I like a bum.
Yeah, a bum.
We're now.
She's got an awfully nice bum.
She does have an awfully nice bum.
All right. And on that note, I think we can sign off. We'll be back in a week's time to talk about the next episode with Kevin Millard and the team here. Thanks, everybody. And some Gilligan's they have recurring characters. All right. True. Let's giggle all our way out of here.
Or is it just the galaxy giggling at us again?
They can giggle all at once. But the galaxy's not getting any of our bourbon.